everything, our house is on fire. That's our house. You can tell it's next, and we're getting out.
I feel like Governor Newsom, if you're watching this, if you can please help out and reach out to us, that would be wonderful. We live here in Altadena, and yeah, we're just going through it.
Well, it's kind of sad, you know. I mean, everybody's lost, not just this community. The community next door, I'm sure all the people up there have lost everything. It's just pretty devastating. This is pretty devastating. I don't think LA's seen anything like this before.
What's gone up in flames? I can't believe I'm standing here. I broke every blockade to get here. It's just so sad, excuse my language.
But as Los Angeles keeps burning, the raging inferno has led to a political battle. California is a blue state headed by Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom. US President Joe Biden, too, was supposed to be in Rome today, but he cancelled his visit to monitor the situation.
Did you make a decision?
But President-elect Donald Trump is using this tragedy to take aim at Governor Newsom. He's accused the state government of gross incompetence. He claims fire hydrants ran dry when they were needed the most. And he's criticized policies that prioritize preserving wetlands and wildlife, arguing that these decisions have now come back to haunt Los Angeles.
Homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know, you talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California. This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water.
The whole state of California is on fire. The governor's getting called out for gross mismanagement. And he's hiding in the corner trying to play the victim. Oh my God, don't politicize this. It's your failed policies are part of the reason why this tragedy is as bad as it is. But we're not allowed to criticize Democrats, right? Well, they can kick rocks. I'm criticizing Democrats today. Let's talk about it.
That's the show, Dennis!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Assuming nothing's changed since last time and I can still call you that, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk with your boy Trey. I got some stuff for y'all today. Now, most unfortunately, the state of California is on fire and not in the best way, unfortunately. They got fires all over the place, out of control, tragedy striking, hundreds of thousands of homes destroyed. People have died, unfortunately, in these fires, and California cannot get a handle on it at all. Now, there may be a bunch of reasons for that, but the reason that I'm sure they're all going to point to is climate change. And frankly speaking, that's all bullshit. What I know for sure is that climate change has nothing to do with why y'all ain't got no water. Climate change has nothing to do with why y'all fire department is inefficient, for example. Okay, so there's probably a few different reasons, but I stumbled across this video from Prager U, and I think it was probably recorded a few months ago. But it's amazing how right now, everything just about that was in that video is playing forward today as if they knew this was coming. It's very interesting to see. So I want y'all to watch this with me. Y'all tell me what y'all think. So without further ado,
California, the Golden State, home to Hollywood, Silicon Valley, Napa Valley, glitz, glamour, and now blackouts. In 2019, California became the first state ever to intentionally deny electricity to its own citizens. No power for your home, your Tesla, your cell phone, or maybe your oxygen tank.
All right, so that's wild. I didn't know about that. They denied electricity to their residents' houses. That, like, okay, so one thing is for sure that this happened within the last 8 years. So it was under Governor Gavin Newsom, where they denied their own citizens, their own residents, electricity. Wow.
This is California we're talking about, not some impoverished third world country. California. If it were a sovereign nation, it would be the 5th largest economy in the world, ahead of the UK and France. But in the hot, dry months of late summer and early fall, it can no longer provide electricity to its own citizens. It has to shut down its aging power lines or risk starting another catastrophic fire. In 2018, the town of Paradise burned to the ground. Over 10,000 homes were destroyed.
Wow.
85 people died.
Wow.
In 2017, the Redwood Fire killed 9 people. California has always had wildfires, but now the fire threat is worse than ever. Why? For the answer, we should look to one of the state's leading citizens, Leonardo DiCaprio. The reason these wildfires have worsened is because of climate change. Case closed? Well, not quite. But Leo...
I'm glad you said that, because I'm about to say, yeah, nah, I don't buy that. I'm not buying that. Climate change is not the reason why y'all were unprepared to handle this fire. All right? It just wasn't. Wildfires in California is absolutely a thing, and one would think that a state with as much income and revenue and money that they have would be able to essentially fireproof themselves, so to speak, from something that happens all the time, right? This is like somebody in Alaska getting caught with a blizzard. Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh no, a blizzard came to Alaska. They didn't know what to do. What do you mean? Blizzards happen all the time in places like Alaska. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just what maybe that was a bad analogy. I don't know, but that's what I think.
Leo isn't wrong. Climate change has made the problem worse. He's just not right in the way he thinks he is. Let's get into it. Long before global warming became climate change, Californians had to deal with fires. The hot, bone-dry summer and fall winds, thick forests, and dense brush that cover good portions of the state made sure of that. As the state's population grew, the citizens, always aware of fire risk, took steps to mitigate that risk, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. First, there were large-scale logging operations. These helped thin the forest. Then there were controlled burns, fires purposely set to clear areas of brush in fire zones, which were then quickly extinguished. As the influence of the environmental movement grew more pronounced at the end of the last century and into this one, the state's policy changed. First, new regulations sharply curtailed logging operations. Cutting down trees for lumber was depicted as almost an act of cruelty. Even clearing dead trees was frowned upon. Controlled burns reviewed.
How is it frowned upon to clear off dead trees? They're dead. They're dead. That's what's wrong with that's what's wrong with some of these wackos on the left. Right? These tree huggers that are like, nah, you shouldn't even use the dead trees. No, we shouldn't even use trees as lumber. What? These people are they're lunatics, man.
Even clearing dead trees was frowned upon. Controlled burns were viewed the same way. It was much better, the environmentalists contended, to let nature do its thing. And as housing became more expensive in the big cities, developers started to build homes further from metropolitan areas and closer to the wilderness. Parallel to this was the state's green energy mandate.
Hold on. Before we get into that, I'm so glad they brought this up, because I think this green energy mandate is total horseshit. But I'm so glad that they brought that up. But let me back up real quick.
Nature do its thing. And as housing became more expensive in the big cities, developers started to build homes further from metropolitan areas and closer to the wilderness.
So it started costing too much for them to build basically in the city away from the fires. So they started building closer to where the fires are, right? Policy makes things too expensive. So the people who were still trying to develop and take care of their growing population had to build houses now closer to where the people are going to be more at risk. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
Parallel to this was the state's green energy mandate.
Another
Governor
disaster.
Jerry Brown declared that California would be powered entirely by renewable energy, mostly wind and solar, by 2045. Tremendous pressure was put on Pacific Gas and Electric, the state's largest energy company, to get started on this project. Here's where Leo gets it right, if unintentionally. The green energy mandate turned the power company's attention and resources away from the power grid and to wind and solar. How did this lead to new and deadlier fires? Let's put the pieces of the puzzle together. Wildfires can be started in all sorts of ways. Lightning strikes, campfires not properly put out, a cigarette carelessly tossed away, or sometimes straight up arson. But the worst culprit of all is power lines. In 2018, fully half of California's wildfires were started by power lines or related electrical problems. It's not
Half? Half of the wildfires in 2018 were started because of power lines. That's infrastructure. Doesn't the governor have control over the infrastructure of the state? How do you have a state with the 5th largest GDP in the world that got old power lines, old faulty power lines at that? That's crazy.
hard to figure out why. California's power grid is ancient. Most of its towers were built before 1950. Some of the lines are so old they qualify for the National Registry of Historic Places. The lines that are failing and sparking fires? No surprise, the old ones.
So if I ain't know no better, I think California was, trying to slow walk themselves into oblivion. You know what I mean? Their infrastructure's garbage. They got power lines starting fires. Literally, it's like they're asking for this. It's literally as if they're asking for this.
The deadliest fire in California history, the 2018 Camp Fire that burned down Paradise, was caused by equipment that dates back to 1921. 100-year-old equipment. It's not that the power company didn't know there was a problem. They knew, but they were focused on more pressing political priorities, like green energy. That's where PG&E, a public utility, which just means it's the politicians who call the shots, put its money and resources. In 2018, PG&E spent $2.4 billion on renewables. By comparison, in 2017, it spent $1.4 billion on existing infrastructure.
Wow. So not only are they being dangerous with this commitment to green renewable energy, but they're also willing to go bankrupt for it. They spent over $1 billion more in 2018 on this newfangled energy. $1 billion more than they spent on the entire infrastructure the year before. That's just bad business. That's just bad business.
So let's review. The forests grow ever more dense. Brush builds up because controlled burns are not permitted. Developers build in wilderness areas. And the dominant power company chases its renewable energy mandate at the expense of nuts and bolts line maintenance. Such are the things uncontrollable fires are made of. Where are we now? PG&E is in bankruptcy, sued into oblivion, with no viable plan to fix the grid. Instead of bringing vital infrastructure into the 21st century, California is voluntarily turning itself into a third world country. That's what happens when progressives and environmentalists run things. The Golden State isn't going green, it's going broke, and it's going dark. When that happens, maybe a light bulb will finally turn on in the heads of California voters.
And that's the real deal. That's the real deal. When are the voters going to get it together? When are the voters in California going to say enough of this crap? Because that's really the question. You're going to let these Democrat politicians, these progressive politicians continue to spin y'all into oblivion and literally risk your lives to save fishes and to save the environment and all that kind of crap.
The Delta smelt is symbolic. That's it. Nearly identical species exist all over the world. It's not disappearing. It's just not in one river in California anymore. And here's the truth. The Delta ecosystem has already adapted to its near absence. Nature does that. But the fight to save the Delta smelt isn't about science. While water is diverted to protect a fish that's already irrelevant to the ecosystem, thousands of homes burn. Fire hydrants run dry. The governor and the mayors admit there's no water to fight fires, but they still prioritize a fish over your safety. This isn't environmentalism. It's mismanagement. It's government failure. It's listening to people who put an insignificant fish ahead of your home, your family, and your life. The Delta smelt isn't saving the environment. It's a tool, a symbol to manipulate.
Dateline August 23rd. Fearing Trump, California is preparing to go its own way on water. Governor Gavin Newsom's administration is reopening a playbook it used to protect endangered fish.
The fight to save the Delta smelt is merely a political tool to maintain control, and they're willing to exchange your safety to do that.
In the world, the firemen don't have hoses, so they're like literally using purses.
And then when a known natural disaster that, happens regularly, then when a known natural disaster comes, you're ill-equipped to handle it. How many times does something like that have to happen before people say, probably these people aren't the right kind of people that should be running the show? Whenever a tragedy strikes on their watch and they're ill-equipped to handle it, and they get called out for it, I'm talking about the Democrats, they always resort back to this, we shouldn't politicize this, there are tragedies happening, things are happening, oh my God. As if every time there's a mass shooting that they can pin on anything remotely Republican, anything remotely right-wing, like they don't do that and harp on that. They made Kyle Rittenhouse out to be a monster. Kyle Rittenhouse basically only shot in self-defense. They made Kyle Rittenhouse out to be an entire monster. Like he was a Negro hunting white boy who happened and he was waiting to be triggered. And he happened to pull the trigger on some white guys, but that's not the point. He had the intention, he had the heart to pull the trigger on some Negroes. That's what they told us about people like Kyle Rittenhouse. Anytime you get the opportunity to politicize something like that, the Democrats do that. But when it's them, they start crying and whining about how you shouldn't politicize nothing, or they just straight up stonewall you, like the woke DEI mayor of Los Angeles.
Citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Can you back up? Appreciate it. Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
See, this is what they do. They go straight stonewall. And they all have that silly ass look on their face when they do it too. Like that smug, look at this smug look on her face. Like she's doing the right thing. Like she's enduring something. Look at her.
With this disaster. No apology for them?
Of course not.
Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Absolutely incredible. No words for the citizens. No words for the people that she presides over. No words. Not going to say a word. That's great, but that's what they do. That's what they do, right? Especially the DEI hires. And yes, she is a DEI mayor. And in California, not only did they cut the budget for the fire department, but they basically said, screw the whole fire department as they turned their focus within the last year or so to DEI.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I say, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
That just kind of opens the door of people that thought, wow, I didn't even know that that was an opportunity for me.
We are hosting our new employee orientation, and our focus is to teach our new employees for them to understand cultural competency, identify implicit and unconscious bias, and be aware of the importance of us having a diverse and inclusive workforce.
Diversity is important because the different people bring different lenses to their job, and those different ideas, those different lenses are important to have the best practices for our industry.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion be damned. I don't give a shit about that. Fight the fires. We don't care about these kinds of things, y'all. Fight the fires. It's just like LGBTQ in school. Nobody cares about your hot gay date from last week. No one cares about any of that. Teach math. Teach reading. Teach science. Our kids can't do science. Our kids can't read. Our kids can't write. Our kids can't math. No one cares about your stupid little orientation. No one cares about your stupid little ideologies. We expect you to do a job. You know who gives a shit about your sexuality or your orientation? Whoever it is that you bumping burgers with. The rest of us don't give a rat's ass who you go home with, who you go home to, or what you do when you go home. You know why? Because all of us are worried about what the shit we're gonna do when we go home. So no one cares. Diversity, equity, and inclusion being a focus, particularly at a job like the fire department, is stupid. They can't fight the fires because all that DEI, all up and through LA, the people that made the decisions, they decided to cut the budget by $17 million.
It's confirmed that Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and the majority of the LA City Council did cut more than $17 million from the LA Fire Department in 2024 and the 25 budget. I mean, you just said it, Greg. Why would they cut the fire budget?
Look, they bring in $220 billion a year in revenue, and they spend less than $2 billion on the fire budget. So you tell me why.
This is absolutely gross mismanagement and absolutely gross incompetence. And I hope that the citizens of California get their heads on straight after watching this and just add up everything else that's happened since Newsom took over. And everything else that's happened under Democrat watch for the last 25 years. I hope they look at those things and say, you know what? Enough is enough. We got to go in a different direction. I'm here for it. I support y'all out there in California. I got some good friends, real close family out there, and I want y'all to do as best as possible. And y'all ain't going to do nothing with Newsom at the helm. But that's just what I think. Y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. Please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to this channel, especially if you liked what I was just talking about. Give me a follow over here on Rumble, and don't forget to follow me on X and on Truth Social at The Great and Terrible. You can also type in Straight Talk with Trey, and you'll see us right there. No matter what happens, no matter what you think about all of this, remember to continue to stay skeptical, stay informed, and to always question the narrative. And assuming nothing's changed in the last few minutes, and I can still call y'all ladies and gentlemen, I am Trey. This is Straight Talk. I'll catch y'all on the next one.
All I could say is if I had a leader that was doing this in one of my companies, I would say he's either incompetent or he intentionally wants to hurt the state. Either one are terrible. The incompetence is terrible. The intention to damage is terrible.
Yeah.
But this is why we left California as permanent residents over 13 years ago and moved to Florida.
The LA fire chief warned the mayor apparently last month that the $17 million in cuts would severely limit the department's capacity to prepare for, train for, and respond to large-scale emergencies, including wildfires. Just extraordinary.